Welcome viewers of the Awakening Empire. I give you chapter 5 of One Helluva Assassin / Hero. Izuku. Smiling hi mom. Inko stood there in the doorway, completely still, until tears began streaming out. Then in one quick motion, she lunged towards Izuku. Inko. Izuku. She then wrapped her arms tightly around Izuku as she cried her heart out. On the day Izuku was killed by Izumi and her group, she was informed by the police who found his body that he was dead. This of course sent the poor woman in a downward spiral. At first she didn't want to believe that she had lost her pride and joy, but as the cruel reality finally broke through to her, her world came crumbling down. She had fallen in a state of depression. Whenever she even looked at a picture that Izuku was in, she would immediately break down into tears and would cry for what felt like forever. But now, he was here, her baby boy was back, and now she was in tears again, but it was instead tears of pure happiness, rather than sadness. Inko clung to Izuku for several minutes, the tears from her eyes staining Izuku's clothes, but he didn't mind one bit as he hugged her back. Then, something clicked in Inko's head as she found herself backing off. Inko. Wait. How are you? Izuku. Alive. Well, it's a bit of a long story mom, but I'll try and summarize it as best as I can. Izuku and Inko both went inside, and sat on the couch where Izuku began to explain everything that had happened to him, starting with the fact that Izumi and her group had beat him to near death, and sent him off the roof, resulting in his death. After hearing that, to say that Inko was angry would be a severe understatement. The amount of rage that had built up inside of Inko could be felt by Izuku, and needless to say, he was kinda terrified by it. Inko. Those little bastards. How dare they do this? When I get a hold of them, I'll tear them apart. Inko was going off like a raging volcano, while Izuku just watched. He felt like a tiny human, standing next to giant rage-filled, flame-breathing beast. Inko eventually settled down, but was still fuming at the fact that they took his son's life. Izuku. Mom. You okay? Inko. Yes, sweetie, I'm okay. Just still very infuriated that those little bastards, including Izumi, would take your life like that. The bullying was definitely bad enough, but this is practically a villainous act. Go silent. Wait. If you died, then, how exactly did you come back alive? 1. Izuku took a deep breath, not sure how she was going to react on what he was going to say. Izuku. Well. You see, when I found myself in hell. Inko went stiff, her skin practically turned pale when she heard those words. Inko. What? Did you say, hell? As in minus. Izuku. As in the fiery underworld. Yes. But you see, it wasn't all that bad. Inko. Wasn't that bad? How? Why did you get sent to hell? You haven't sinned. You minus. Izuku. Mom. Let me explain. Inko fell silent once more, allowing Izuku to speak. Izuku. You see, someone actually brought me to hell. He was a radio demon, his name was Alistair. He apparently brought me to hell cause he knew I wanted revenge against Izumi and her group, but I wouldn't have gotten that if I went to heaven. And before he left, he gave me some of his powers. He knew I would put them to good use. Inko listened intently to her son's words, but still had a visible look of shock on her face. This information was almost too much for her to process. Izuku. Then I found a place to work at. IMP basically, they go to the living world and kill people. But the people we kill are bad. After I did a solo job, my boss gave me a book that allowed me to travel from hell to the living world. And that's how I got here. Inko just sat there, silently, processing all the things her boy had just told her. Inko. I see. Well, I guess by doing your job, your boss lets you have the book, right? Izuku. Yes. And I know you wouldn't really support this, but this what I need to do in order to come here to the living war minus. Inko. Don't worry, sweetie, I understand. Izuku. You do. Inko. Of course. And, you're right, I'm not exactly fond of the fact that you have to kill people. But if what you're saying is true, that you just go after bad people, then I'm okay with that. Izuku smiled, glad that his mother understood what he needed to do. Izuku. Well. I suppose I better bring this back to my boss. He would not be happy if I didn't bring back the only access he has to the living world. Inko nodded her head, a few tears were beginning to show, and Izuku walked over to her and hugged her, with Inko hugging him back, letting loose a few happy tears. 1. Izuku. But don't worry, I promise I'll come back to you, as soon as I can. Inko. Sniffs, I know, sweetie. I'm just so happy to know that you're still alive, and that I could see you again. Izuku teared up as well. He couldn't lie, he was happy to see his mother as well. This hug between mother and son lasted for an entire hour. Neither one wanted to let go. But eventually, they both did separate, and Izuku walked over to the front door, before using the book to open up a portal. He then turned around, smiling at his mother one last time. Izuku. I love you, Mom. Inko returned a similar smile, as she waved to her son. Inko. I love you too, sweetie. Izuku then walked through the portal, as it closed back up, leaving Inko alone once again, but she wasn't sad, not one bit. And as she walked past a counter with a few pictures on it, one particular picture caught her eye. When she picked it up, a warm smile appeared on her face, and this time, she didn't break down into tears. She was instead happy, very happy, cause on this day, she got to see her son, once again,